I'll start your car for you anytime, brother.
Thank you. What's on your mind?
Just a couple things here. I just wanted to first give out some props to Stitcher. I'm listening on my iPhone app, but I first found you through Stitcher. You ever heard about them?
I know there's a whole bunch of different systems that list every online radio venue in the known galaxy, but no, I haven't heard of that particular one.
Yeah, that's how I got you about a year ago. One quick thing, and then I'll let you go. Do you think that Ron Paul should actually have Secret Service protection, since he is 1, 2, or 3 in every single poll?
Yes, but again, that's another paradox. It's normally the Secret Service that'll actually bust a cap in you, and then they'll have some little patsy who's drugged up out of their mind, who they later tell, when they wake up from the amnesic, like Sirhan or others, oh, you did that. Did you know that? And, of course, court documents even come out on Sirhan that was a stage deal. The LAPD knew it was the government. They detained the guy who was actually seen shooting RFK. But, again, it just becomes a conspiracy theory because we all know the government wouldn't do wrong. So, yes, Ron Paul should have Secret Service protection as the leading Republican candidate, undoubtedly. But you don't want Secret Service protection because they would just put guys in there that would step aside for him to get blown away and undoubtedly spy on Ron Paul. So if I was Ron Paul, I would not accept Secret Service protection.
Right. At least the only good thing about it would actually give people a second thought of like, hey, he really can win.
Well, look, it's a mind game. And look, the globalists are almost out of political bullets. Great points. Before, if they said somebody couldn't win, he would have gone nowhere. But they've said he can't win, and he's at the front of the pack. So now they're pulling out all the stops, going completely bonkers. More of your calls straight ahead on the other side. Stay with us. By the way, later we're going to play the clip of this. Fox News, Talk Radio, they've all got a talking point going. You've heard it in the last month. The Iowa governor said the same thing. That if Paul bots give Ron Paul the victory in Iowa, they're just going to ignore it, and that they've basically changed the rules in the Republican electoral process, and that they'll just have a brokered convention. And they have changed the rules. So this just shows you who the rulers of the Republican Party are. I was actually having dinner with one of Rand Paul's staffers, or lunch the other day, and he was here in town. And he was talking about how just to get Rand into the Republican town hall meetings early on in Kentucky, they had to get thousands of Rand Paul supporters to threaten to stop giving Republicans donations to even get him in the events, even when he had already shown in the polls that he was going to win the primary. I mean, that's how these people operate. They will do anything to keep real libertarian, constitutional conservatives out. Now, here is the headline: Republican insider, GOP establishment planning to subvert Iowa to prevent Ron Paul win. And so we're going to be breaking all of this down. And then I saw another analyst last night on Fox saying, oh, well, if he does win, we're just going to ignore it. This is mind control. Speaking of mind control, I'm going to play some clips we put together after I take more calls in the next segment of the John Huntsman ad. And we've actually gone and pulled world leaders calling for global government and saying that New World Order means global government, including George Herbert Walker Bush talking about New World Order. And then separately, Huntsman is spending most of his campaign money in Iowa playing clips from my films with Ron Paul talking about the New World Order and George Herbert Walker Bush saying New World Order, and basically implying that Ron Paul's insane. So I'm going to show you the clip, and then I'm going to show you the world leaders saying what Ron Paul said they said. So if Ron Paul walks out and says, the sky is blue, but these people say it isn't, you're supposed to ignore your lying eyes. They think you're mindless children. They treat you like you're a lobotomized jellyfish. They have disdain for you because they sit up there with an appeal to authority in their suits on television looking into a camera. And so there's an appeal to authority and it must be true. That is so insulting. All right, I'm going back to your calls. Brian in Pennsylvania, you're on the air. Welcome.
Hello, Alex. Big fan of yours. Whether you know it or not, you were part of my intelligence network since you've been public years ago. I run a counter-terror criminal espionage unit called Aqua Delta 69. I was offered to work for their killing teams, Cobra Vector 1, in 1978 and 79 as a silent killer, bow sniper, martial artist. I've investigated, starting with our local state police department we had in New Jersey in 1969, and I have continued on with the investigation. We can prove Team B, Zebra Rattler 2, killed John Kennedy. We have overwhelming evidence to prove it, and confessions right from British MI6 that the Queen of England ordered his assassination. Everything you say is right on the money.
Well, I know that E. Howard Hunt, who ran assassination squads on record, before he died, went public and said that he had run the operation, and that dovetailed with LBJ's widow, that is mistress, who on record was his mistress, Madeline Duncan Brown. I'm going from memory here. And then we also have his lawyer who went public, McClellan, and said that LBJ said that he'd had him killed. And then people spun that and said, well, Alex is saying that LBJ ordered the hit and it didn't go above LBJ. No, all of my sources were under LBJ, and that's as high as our confirmation goes. But I'd like you to send me some information.
Oh, definitely. I've tried to send you in the past. I don't know if you got it. The Queen of England ordered it. MI6 made confessions. Bob Fletcher, I'm going to name him on the air. Bob Fletcher has a picture of the unit 1 month before they killed JFK. Oswald was patsy, just like he said he was. He was working for the ONI, CIA, and FBI.
All right, sir. Well, I don't know who Bob Fletcher is, and I don't want to... Listen, just mail me a letter then with the information. If it gets lost in the thousands of emails, or send it again to showtips@infowars.com, because I would like to see that information. I appreciate your call. I mean, I'm not doubting the government tries to hire former military people to be assassins, because just separately in my own family, I know that most of the people who were Army officers in my family were approached to be domestic assassination teams. But not for citizens who were just, politically involved. They were tried to hire them to be assassins to kill drug dealers who weren't laundering their money through the U.S. government. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
We're on the mark.
Okay, we are back live. Your phone calls are coming up. I would like to hear from listeners specifically about your view of the Republicans openly announcing on TV and radio that the Republican establishment just won't let Ron Paul win one way or the other, that if he wins Iowa, they're just going to ignore it, or that they might actually... Well, here's the headline at Prisonplanet.com. Republican insider, GOP establishment planning to subvert Iowa to prevent Ron Paul win. We've got Ron Paul's brother, Wayne Paul, joining us to talk about this and a lot more in the second hour today. Then we'll continue with open phones in the third hour, but we'll also take some calls for Wayne Paul. Wayne is a great patriot for more than, 40 years or so, fighting the private Federal Reserve. He's basically just like his brother. And he's a CPA that's famously fought the IRS and been involved in court cases beating them. I mean, this family is just 110% patriot, hard-charging all the way. You see, I've known Ron Paul since 1996. And I see all these people saying he isn't real, or he's New World Order with no proof, or he's Masonic poobah with no proof. That is establishment COINTELPRO attacking him from the bottom, as Cass Sunstein said that they would do. The White House regulations are. He said the mainstream media has lost so much credibility that they're no longer the mainstream media. So the system has to pose as, quote, conspiracy theorist and alternative media. That means people that aren't bamboozled, people that aren't suckers, people that aren't fools. They have to pose as us because we have credibility to then create infighting. But when you see Wayne Paul, I noticed the media never even picked up on this, Wayne Paul involved in, cases out in Las Vegas with, patriots and big IRS cases and challenging the IRS in federal court. I mean, just the whole family. And I know folks behind the scenes with Rand Paul, and he is just absolute anti-New World Order. Right down the line, he is just more polished than his father. Just amazing people. And they are great focal points for our movement of liberty to wake people up. So that's coming up after I get to some of your phone calls. I wanted now, though, to get to this video. This is what Huntsman, a gentleman on record who's worked for Obama, so he's in good company with Mitt Romney and Newt Gingrich, who were for carbon taxes, open borders, gun control, wrote the Obama plan, that's Romney, Gingrich, an illuminist globalist supporting carbon taxes, open borders. I mean, you just can't make up how bad these guys are. And the system just keeps cramming them down everybody's throats. And as people learn about how bad they are, they turn against them. But in the case of Mitt Romney, if he does get the nomination, people are going to hold their nose and say, well, at least he's not Obama. Wait a minute. He will continue everything Obama's done. He's shown that in his actions. But he'll be a new face. And so it'll take a few years to expose him as a globalist traitor. It would be better just to keep Obama in there engaging in all his treason, because at least politically, he's garbage. He's spoiled. But it gives them a new, fresh horse for the New World Order to ride on if they get Romney in there. Remember, it's the Republican establishment that's voting for all this draconian police state garbage for Obama. All of these Republican and mainline neocon sites are freaking out over the NDAA and over all of the different MIAC and Homeland Security reports listing patriots and libertarians and conservatives as terrorists. And then meanwhile, it's the Republican Congress that's helping write the book on all of this. It's a ruling political class who poses and acts like they're having a fight with each other, but they're not. And I know that's understood by our listeners, but the general public hasn't completely figured that out yet. This has been the first time in memory, except for Pat Buchanan to a certain extent. You saw what they did with him. Clear election fraud, saying he couldn't win, demonization. Same thing with Ron Paul. But Ron Paul is 5 times better than Pat Buchanan. And Pat's a good person overall. I mean, Ron Paul is as good as it gets. As good as it gets. And so the system is pulling out every stop. So if you don't like what the system's doing, and you're sick of the status quo, and you're tired of things not changing, and you want real hope and change, Ron Paul. And I know our audience understands that, but it's so elementary. It's so simple, and it's so frustrating to see this disinformation. Now, Huntsman is getting desperate right now. He is in absolute, total, and complete panic mode, and he's going after Ron Paul because he has zero credibility, and everybody knows exactly who he is and what he stands for. And we have articles, again, breaking it down at Infowars.com and Prisonplanet.com. There's a good New American article by Thomas Edlam breaking it down. John Huntsman grasping for straws in attacks on Ron Paul. And what do they do in this ad that uses a clip from Endgame, my seminal documentary on the globalist mindset? Not just that they want a world government, but what are they after? What drives